Here we go. Welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classics. This is episode number 3166 and Doubleshot number 3060. Got two Marvel trades for you. First of which, first time any kind from this series on this thing, but it had it on there. So I figured though, why not? We have Hawkeye Epic Collection Volume 4 Shafted. Now, some of the books people have heard of these books already, but not all of them. First, we have Hawkeye Volume 4, Hawkeye Volume 2, which came out in 1984, written by Chuck Dixon, which was 4 issues. Hawkeye the Earth's Mightiest Marks was, I think this was previously collected in Avengers Assemble trade. Hawkeye Volume 3, which was 8 issues. Along with Avengers 502, The Pulse number 10, New Avengers 2630, Young Avengers number 6, and material for 159 and 160 when Mark Humphrey presents. Issue now, as for, let's talk about the other issues first. Avengers 502, that's when Hawkeye dies the first time at the hands of some illusionary stuff caused by Scarlet Witch during the Avengers Assembled. The Pulse is simply put what Hawkeye was up during the events of House of M. New Avengers 26. This is the issue Hawkeye's back to present day, finds Scarlet Witch, and has sex with her. Something he couldn't do back in the 70s. 30 was him rejoining the Avengers, and revealed to be Ronin, the new Ronin. Young Avengers number 6. This is him meeting Kate Bishop first time. Which this one has been collected before in a Hawkeye trade by from the Matt Frax David Aja run. Now, before I talk about these books, now a lot of people do know about the first volume for Hawkeye released back in the early 1980s, written by Mark Greenwald. Simply, the book was known for hooking up Hawkeye and Mockingbird, so that book is well publicized. These other two books are not as well known as those two. Now, the writers of these books are Chuck Dixon, Neil Young, Tom DeFalco, Fabian Caesar, Brian McManus, and Matt Fraction. I think Matt Fraction does the Young Avengers issue. You have Scott Nolans, Jerry DeGari, Salvatore Verfel, Joe Bennett, David Finch, Michael Lark, Alex Maleev, Leonard Francis Yu, Alan Davis, Mark Bagley, Dave Ross, Jeff Johnson. The writers, I have met 2 of them. Chuck Dixon and Fabian Caesar. The artists, I have met Dave Finch and Alex Maleev. The front cover of the book is on Sal Roca and Liquid. The back of the book is done by Dave Finch, Dave Miki, and Frank Namara. So, the order of these to put in here is that you have the Hawkeye Volume 2, and then you have the Mark Humphrey Presents issues, which is only about 3 issues, by the way. Then you have the Earth's Mightiest Marksman one-shot, which was released in 1988. Hawkeye Volume 3, which is 8 issues, all in order. And then we had Avengers 502, which was published, get this, it was released 3 months after the final issue of Hawkeye Volume 3. And then you had the Pulse issue, which was published the following year. Then the 2 Avengers issues, and you had Hawkeye, the Young Avengers 6. So, the Shafted name comes from basically the first issue of the second volume for the book. This book is not well publicized Marvel Comics, purely because Chuck Dixon wrote it. Yeah, it's one of the very few mainstream superheroes he actually wrote who was not the Punisher. Of course, yes, he did write Punisher, he wrote Moon Knight, yes, he wrote Hawkeye as well. So in this book, you start with Hawkeye where he's like in the snow, he's like very scruffy looking. I would say this is probably just after, they didn't mention Forest Works in here. This is probably when he was out on his own prior to joining Forest Works, and probably just after he left after the end of Avengers West Coast, which got canceled. I think it was canceled due to, I think I read that the reason at the original 102, that really epic volume, was canceled due to low sales. That's the reason I heard. I read anyways. So after Hawkeye does some hunting with his bow and arrow, he takes out some hunters trying to hunt him. I love all the terrible dialogue basically he has. He of course breaks into a facility. And then of course we run into Trickshot. Yes, Trickshot, who was revealed in this book to be the man who trained Hawkeye. Yep. Yeah, he's the one who trained him. He's a chubby older guy, but yeah, he actually died in the Hawkeye blind spot first issue. And then the man who murdered him, Hawkeye's brother, became Trickshot. Is this the first appearance of Trickshot? No. I think he made his debut, I think it was in Solo Avengers. Yes, it was the first issue of Solo Avengers where he basically first showed up. We also have reference of the character Javelin. This, of course, is Marvel's Javelin. DC's Javelin is a guy. Marvel's is a woman. Yeah, prior to this book, he appeared in the opening, mostly of the first 4 out of the first 5 issues of Solo Avengers. Then he appeared in Avengers Spotlight 23-25, and then appeared in this book, a few issues of the next volume for Hawkeye, and then he died in Hawkeye Blind Spot #1. And of course, he's working for Viper, who the artist says I give her a 6-pack. I'll show off in a minute. So, Javelin is, well, its original character, but later on they kind of aged up a bit for some reason. If you're really curious, after this book, she shows up in Star-Lord, Volume 2. Yes, she shows up in this book. Not sure why. Well, they said age up a bit, and then her last known appearance was actually in the 9th issue of Black Cat. And that was 5 years ago. Yeah, so after this book, which came out in 1984, her next appearance will not be in for 23 years. And appeared in that book here, and then so here she's very young and very beautiful, and then later on made her older. And of course she pins Hawkeye. Of course, she also got half face painted. Of course. Yep. And I think of the creature, of course, revealed their boss. And here's Viper. And Scott Nolan's gave her a 6-pack. Yep. Yeah, and also make her smoker for some reason, but yeah. Can't deny the fact that he makes women look gorgeous. Gotta praise Scott Nolan's for that. They have Hawkeye basically delivering the creature he met in the last issue, and have veterinary help treat the person. So then he goes and deals with whatever he's with this woman the whole book. And of course, I'm still saying, oh yeah, Scott Nolan's draws Viper with a 6-pack. Yeah. And of course, creature helps the Hawkeye. And and the issue 3, you have it's where he teams up with War Machine. Yep, after being snowed for 2 issues, now he's being with War Machine. And then the last issue of this book, he, get this, has a rematch with U.S. Agent. Oh, by the way, the creature's called Rover, who sadly only appeared in this book. Once this book wrapped up, this character was never seen again. The reason for it, I have no idea. Issue 3 is also going to be of a character named Biocoms. And they themselves, as soon as this book wrapped up, they never appeared in Marvel Comics ever again. Yeah, and like I mentioned, issue 4, he actually thought he was U.S. agent. Nope, he just deals with he wraps up his little fight with Secret Empire, and Well, actually, yeah, this is basically Viper being part of Second Empire. No, not the event Second Empire, the organization Second Empire. They're I believe they are a Hulk. I think they're a group of Hulk villains. Yes, they first appeared in a storyline involving the Hulk. And I guess because Chuck Dixon likes old spy organizations like this, so he featured him in this book. He did feature him in his run for Moon Knight. That he did. They were previously featured part of this book in issue Alpha Flight. And next after this featured X Factor, issue of Thunderbolts, miniseries Nomad Girl Without a World, an arc for Captain America, Taskmaster, a couple issues of Daredevil, Avenging Spider-Man, Captain America Black Widow. Very sporadically, the last known appearance that wasn't present day, Legends was technically the last time they appeared, but last time they appeared was more like Head Games. But don't worry, Hawkeye will continue appearing even after this. But this miniseries was excellent. Yes, a really good miniseries. Oh yeah, and also at this point, Hawkeye shaved off his beard by this issue. And look, here is Viper showing off her awesome abs. Yes, because let's have where, okay, so we're not in Disney. Let's have her lose a lot of clothing. Let's have her basically wear a thong, a top, because it's the 90s. Yeah, but like I said, excellent book. It's a shame nobody talks about this book. The book is not terrible. It's a good Hawkeye book. What comes next? The Marvel Comics Sense issues. And this is where this is where the U.S. agent comes in, which of course they alter his costume for the Force Works book. I believe these issues feature Force Works. Yeah, these feature Force Works. Believe it or not, this woman here, that's a Scarlet Witch. Yep, Iron Man obviously because, excuse me. So this armor that Iron Man wears, I think he did wear it on, if I remember correctly, he wore it on. What was the name of the series? Oh yeah, the Iron Man series, 1990s. Yeah, and basically this next solo story for him. Yes, so you have in this story here, you have Iron Man, Sentry, Scarlet Witch. I thought that was U.S. Agent, but apparently that's Sentry. Yeah, so it's just called Rocket Reunion. This is done by Nelson Yanroff. Yeah. And you have Hawkeye outside of the works. Yeah, and then we continue on with Hawkeye trying to murder U.S. Agent. Yeah, for some reason they don't list U.S. Agent here, but yeah, he's definitely here. Yep. So yep, I was right, because basically their characters are supporting characters. So Hawkeye has his rematch with him, nearly murders him. Is this a way for him to get back on the team? On this team? Well, who knows. And then we have the Hawkeye Earth's Mightiest Marksman one-shot. Yes. I think this was collected in one of the Avengers Assemble books, released in 1998. So you just have Hawkeye here, just practicing here with Firestar and Justice. And they have with Patrick Leaper here. Yeah, and you gotta appreciate the fact that basically Tom DeFalco knows these characters. Yep. At one point, he basically fights this polka dot man. Yes, seriously. It is hilarious. The fact that we have this polka dot man. Excuse me. Now, who is this polka dot man, you might ask? No, not that one. Nope. I think that's Oddball. Yeah. His name is Oddball. He's a character from the first volume of Hawkeye who decided about Hawkeye once again this book. Just cuz. Yeah, this is a multi-story book. And Last Thing I Found was actually in that last issue of the first volume. Well, let's see. Okay, so he was not featured in... Okay, so... But after this one-shot here, he made one more appearance. Last time here was actually issue of Captain America. But next appearance will not be until Wolverine. So it's Oddball, deals with Taskmaster. Then we have a story with the Taskmaster in the final story. Which, of course, it'll call for help against, basically... one point they contact the New Warriors for help because they couldn't contact the Avengers. So, nice bringing New Warriors in. I thought that was a really good spotlight for them. And we have Speedball, Rage, Thrasher, and the Richard Nova. Yep. And then we lead into a book that another Hawkeye book nobody talks about. And I do mean nobody. I've never heard anybody ever discuss this book at all. This is like another forgotten volume for Hawkeye. This was a short-lived volume that probably got canceled due to his death. And so, mostly put in the case of this book, well, we do debut this brand new character. Kind of comes Hawkeye's love interest book called Peppermint, a stripper. Yep. So, in these first 6 issues, 6 issues, and you have a 2-parter after this one. So, mostly put, Hawkeye gets involved with this plot involving these ex-army guys, which they're basically like it's like I found in the story. They massacred a whole village. They get their hands on this artifact in this temple that is worth a lot of money. And throughout this book, Hawkeye is trying to figure out, but yeah, he tortures people, and this is Hawkeye on his own. Yeah, basically this book has a similar feeling to that of Greg Rucka's Rough Wolverine. Is very similar. And prior to this, Hawkeye was just featured in the final issue of Ecstatic. Now, why the book got canceled? Probably because of the death of the character. Yes. Barney Barton was going to be alive in this book. Yep. At one point he fell in a coma, and then he was found to be then he came back to life somehow. And there's also flashbacks to his mentor Trickshot when training him, like, yeah, I'm going nowhere in this carnival. And Hawkeye wants to stay, but he's like, nope, I don't want to stay. I want to leave and do other stuff. Yeah. So, by the end of the story here, Hawkeye does, well, a lot of the characters debut in this book, like Peppermint gets killed off basically 4 issues into the story. We debut this character named Billy Mathis, and he dies by issue 6. Him and his wife basically just wanging their hands on some gold. And they're told, like, no, you can't do this. It's a very, like, feels like outside of continuity-ish. Oh, by the way, issue 5 is a frequently reused image on Wikipedia. Yeah, they love using that one. And by the end of this, the pillar is destroyed. Bailey Mathis is killed off by issue 6. Peppermint's killed off in issue 4. Yeah, and all these characters introduced here is in one. Yeah, they even have James Skull, aka Skull the Slayer. And then right afterwards, and they're like, okay, can we finally feature some more comic characters in this book? They do. They feature Blackwood in the last 2 issues of this book. And he fights 2 villains called Firefox, who was a character debuted in Soviet Super Soldiers #1, which was a one-shot. Yes, a frickin' one-shot. And prior to this book, he last fought the Punisher in the John Ostrander run for Punisher. There's also Grigory Samarov, who is a character debuted in this very book. And mostly put, they just deal with these couple criminals and deal with Blackwood for the last issue. And that's it for that volume. Yeah, that is kind of it for that volume. A very interesting volume, and by the time this book wrapped up, I was already getting to comics by the time this book was wrapping up. Like, I didn't realize this book was being published until several years later. I found there was a Hawkeye book, because I knew about Hawkeye, but I had no. I kind of knew about the first volume. I kind of knew about that. I didn't know about the second, third volume of the book. An interesting fun fact: the very first ongoing volume for Hawkeye I published while reading comics was the Mad Faction book. Yeah, people know about the Mad Faction book. It's a well-beloved run that got heavily delayed for stupidity. Heck, even All New Hawkeye briefly got delayed. Yes, this book wasn't even finished. Yeah, for a little bit anyways. And the last No Hawkeye book was Volume 5, which featured Kate Bishop, which the book was amazing. In my honest opinion, it should not have been canceled, because the book was really good. Yes, it was really good. It's like, what was wrong with the theme of Hawkeye? Yeah, but this book, really good. For Epic Collections for Hawkeye, we probably will get one more. And that'd sadly be it when it comes to Hawkeye. Yeah, Kate Bishop have done a miniseries after this, but when it comes to Epic Collections, yeah, he only had, well, right now he's had 3 overall released. The first one came out just a few years ago, and that collected a lot of spotlight appearances for the character, like Tailspin 57, 60, 64, Avenger 16, 63, 64, 65, Marvel Team 22, Marvel Tales 100, probably the backup story, Avengers 189, Marvel Team 92, Marvel Fanfare number 3, probably his story in the book, Avengers 223, the Super Action story, I think they just collected, not his story, I think it was mostly Mockingbird. Yes, they pretty much basically collected the Mockingbird story for a couple of stories, and then we kicked out the Hawkeye first volume, and then we had the issue of Captain America, another issue of Marvel Fanfare, and capped that with Marvel Epic Collection, Marvel Age number 6. Volume 2 just collected the first 20 issues of Avengers Spotlight and issue 21 of Avengers Solo. Basically, Solo Avengers and when it became Avengers Spotlight for... Yes. So, do I think there'll be a Volume 3? Yes. But we have no idea. Well, okay, so it's not been released yet, but apparently it's come out sometime this year. At least anyway. So, it looks like it's going to collect the remaining issues for Avengers Spotlight. Looks like collect all the way in the book. Despite the fact Hawkeye was not featured in a lot of remaining issues. He was only featured in the first 36. I don't think he was featured in the remaining issues of this book. No. But they probably include because why not? And they include a Mark Hummer Sense issue here, issue 83. Now, why is this issue in here? Because it's part of that story in the book. I'll have a cover date for this one comes out December, but I'm guessing that the book probably come out in October of this year. And that'll be probably the last of the Epic Collections, because I don't think there's going to be any more after this. Well, there is a Modern Epic Collection, yes. There's that one, which contains basically the reunion stuff. Hawkeye, Mockingbird, Widowmaker, Blind Spot. Yeah, basically stuff for Hawkeye published from the year of like 2009 to 2011. I get the reason why they decided to do this, because I guess because people still love Hawkeye, so why not do a Modern Epic Collection? Because this book is kind of the end of the classic stuff. And like the next book would be Volume 5, just make it Modern Epic Collection. They're not only doing it for this one, also for Captain America and Iron Man. There's even Red Hulk one too. Yes. Now, will I review the Modern Epic Collection for Hawkeye? Maybe. Just maybe. But with this, pretty much we're done with Hawkeye for now, for main issues. I give the book a 10 out of 10. Next up, basically, we have is Groot. This contains the very first volume for Groot, which was a brief. I remember this was a very brief ongoing series that was 6 issues. Yes, there was the mini-series done by Dan Abnett, but this was an actual ongoing. A very brief ongoing, mind you. Oh, it was a limited series. I didn't realize it was a limited series at all. No, I initially thought when it came out it was a ongoing. But nope, mini-series. We had Jeff Loveless in this book, which of course he ran as artist for a run for Nova that killed the book. So you have Brian Kessinger as the artist. The cover is David Shovey and Jordan Bellori. So most of the point it's just a book featuring Groot and Rocket, where you just basically just hang out with each other like a big party. Being picked up like in a van, they hang out on Earth, they run into some other guy here, they run away, look like a parody of Superman in here for reasons. They run into some pirates who are not the Ravengers, by the way. Nope. And then we have like various versions of Groot, including a Uatu Groot. We also have a version of Groot who is Galactus. It's like Groot. Yes, then we have and of course you have when he was a prisoner. All he said was "I am Groot," and at one point, basically, all we're kind of understand "I am Groot," and eventually you understand what the heck he's saying, because that's how it's translated when people say what he's saying is "I am Groot." It's all you can say. And then, for some reason, at the end of issue 2, we have appearance here by Silver Surfer and Dawn in their second ever appearance. For Dawn, this was the second ever time that she ever appeared outside of Silver Surfer. The first time they ever did this was the issue of Guardians Team Up, which for some reason they decided not to include in here. This one they did reference it. And the whole thing with issue 3, it's just a team up between Groot, Silver Surfer, and Dawn. Yep. Because why not? Though I do appreciate the fact that the artist tried to emulate the art style of Mike Aldred with Dawn, which, hey, at least give every people a chance. And then right next to of course, he's stuff with the robots, stuff with scrolls. It's a very interesting book per se. The book ends with issue number 6, with him being a baby Groot, and then this book was relaunched as Rocky Raccoon Groot. Yes. He, of course, beat people up and rescues Rocket, which leads into the last issue of the book, where he's spending time on Earth, which feels like a continuation of an issue of Guardians Team Up, which is a reference here to when Groot first popped up in the 60s, of course, that's actually King Groot. Yeah. Very interesting book. Not terrible. It just feels like a series of stories spread across 6 issues. But not terrible. I do like the story here for this one. I do like this book overall. I give the book roughly 8.5 out of 10. It's just a series standalone issues. Released, of course, 6 issues. Yep, so yeah, this particular review, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up we have is One Piece. Okay, next video. Bye.